32 participants, and the rest of them are busy with their lunch, I think. Since the parallel classes were running, I don't have any space to do the class without any noise. Therefore, I opted to change the schedule itself. Okay. I hope you don't mind. Aishwarya SG, you have raised the hand. Do you want to ask anything? Okay, in 1 minute, I will start the class. Not even 50% of the students are attending. I think everybody is busy in preparing for the examination. Am I audible? First thing is that. Please raise your hand if I am audible. Okay, I'm audible. Okay, I got it. I got it. Today I am going to conclude the module 4. Okay, I will complete the conductors, and from the next class I will start lasers. Okay. 25. I think I must start right now. Let others do their own job. Okay. Again, I know that a few of you might have connection issues. Okay. And for those students, I can take extra classes. That is again, I will tell. Okay. I have in the morning itself, I have written something here. Okay. There is a derivation of electrical conductivity. Okay. You just see the first half part of this. This is the last concept of conductors, that is derivation of electrical conductivity of conductors. Okay. I think you remember that in the semiconductors also you have derived conductivity, right? In the conductor also again same type of derivation is there. This is the new inclusion I have not given in the notes. I will share it separately. For the class sake, I have written this material. Okay. And I hope you can see the PDF. Okay. Now I will start to explain the things. This is very similar to the derivation which we have done for semiconductors. Therefore, no need to panic. If you learn this, you can solve there also, or if you have solved there, you can also solve this. I mean, you can also easily answer this question. Okay. The first thing is we have to consider a conducting material of length L. This is a conducting wire. Okay, it looks like a cylinder of length L, and area of cross section is A. Okay, and I have connected a battery to this conducting material, and of course electric field is moving along this direction. Okay, it is from positive to negative. Okay, this is positive side, this is negative side. Therefore, you can clearly make out that electric field is in this direction. Okay, this is the direction of electric field. Now, what is the direction of electron? Electron will move towards positive terminal. This is the direction of electron. Okay. I think these are all very familiar things for you guys right now, right? I have connected a battery to a semiconducting material of length L and area of cross section A, and electrons are moving towards left. Okay, they are moving towards positive terminal of the battery, and the velocity of the electron is v. It is the drift velocity, right? V is the drift velocity of electron. Again, a trivial thing for you guys. Now the derivation starts slightly slightly different way than that we have started using started in semiconductors. Okay, here we calculate the force acting on this electron. The force acting on the electron due to the applied field E is given by this formula. F is equal to E into E. This is the force acting on the electron. Okay, and now this electron is accelerated towards the positive terminal. It is not only going with a drift velocity, it is actually accelerating towards the positive terminal, and that acceleration is denoted by A. And if mass of the electron is m, then the force can also be written as m into A. Okay, this thing you have to make sure. The force acting on the electron is E into E. In terms of acceleration, it is M into A. Both are same. Okay, both are same. We can equate them. I have missed a vector symbol over the acceleration. Okay, forgive me. And I can obtain acceleration as A is equal to E divided by M. Okay, I have just cross multiplied M here. Now there is a interesting thing which I'm going to do right now. This acceleration, I will write it as velocity divided by relaxation time. Can I do that? Velocity divided by time will have the same units of acceleration, and therefore I can replace this acceleration with velocity, that is drift velocity, by relaxation time. Relaxation time is the time between two successive collisions, right? I hope you remember relaxation time. I mean, these conducting electrons are moving in the positive lattice of the unit cell, and the collision time between two successive, the time between two successive collisions is known as relaxation time. These conducting electrons are going to strike the positive lattice ions. Okay, and that is the origin of resistivity, all that you know, right? The time between two successive collision is known as relaxation time. Okay, in terms of drift velocity and relaxation time, I can write acceleration A as V divided by tau. Okay, and the remaining term on the right hand side is left as it is. E divided by M will be V divided by tau. Or I can write drift velocity in terms of relaxation time by this formula. E divided by M into tau is equal to drift velocity. Okay, call it as equation 4. These are all very trivial things. Let me remind once again. I have considered a conductor of unit length L. Sorry, not unit length. I have considered a conductor of length L and area of cross section A. For that, I have connected a battery, and you know that electron starts to move towards the positive terminal with a velocity V, and force acting on that electron is given by E into E. And if M is the mass and A is the acceleration of the electron, then that force can be written as M into A. You know that both forces are same. MA is equal to EE. And I am now introducing relaxation time into the picture. I am writing acceleration as drift velocity divided by relaxation time, and I have obtained velocity in terms of relaxation time. This is very important step. You have to call it as equation 4, and you have to remember this thing. This is not there in your conductivity derivation of semiconductors. Okay, this is special for conductivity of conductors. Okay, that is the thing. Now let us move forward. You know that current in the circuit is given by total charges per unit time, right? Charges in motion per unit time. And again, I know that if there are n number of charges present per unit area or per unit volume, then if n is the concentration or density, then n into AL. AL is the volume, right? It is area into length, that will give the volume. Therefore, NAL will give the total number of electrons, right? Now, if I multiply this NAL with charge of each electron, I will get the total charge within the semiconducting, conducting material. NAL into E give the total charges inside the conductor. Okay, it is not density, it is the exact number of electrons. Now, that charges are divided by time. Total charges by time will give us the current. Okay, basic definition of current. Now I know T is the time taken by the electron to cross this length L, right? If L is the length of the conducting material, T is the time taken by the electron to cross this length. Therefore, in terms of velocity, I can write time as L divided by V. Okay, this is same as V is equal to L by T, right? Therefore, T is equal to L by V. This is the time taken by the electron to cross the length L. Okay, substitute this value of T in the equation 5, that is in the current. Substitute this time T in current. you can see I have L divided by V in the denominator. Now, magically, you will cancel this numerator L and denominator L. If you have any doubt how I have cancelled, please ask me. Okay. Once you cancel this, you will get the expression for current as NaeV, where N is the concentration of electron, A is the area of cross section of the conducting material, E is the charge of the electron, V is the drift velocity. And again, you know that the current density is given by current divided by area. Okay, this is a new thing which I have done in semiconducting material. Current density is equal to I divided by A, and therefore I can remove A in the current, and NeV give us the current density expression. This is very similar to the thing we have done in the semiconductors. Okay, current density is NeV. Now what you are going to do? This is the question. I have actually tried without textbook and I have made a mistake here. Look at here. I myself done a mistake. I tried to write this thing, and that will not lead me towards the conductivity expression for conductors. Therefore, I realized I have done something wrong. Therefore, I have removed this. Now you guess what I am going to do now. I have obtained current density as NeV. Okay. Now, shall I go for mobility? If I go towards mobility, I will get a wrong answer. Instead of mobility, I have to replace this V. Do you remember? We have done the expression, I mean, we have worked out the velocity, right? Velocity in terms of relaxation time. Look at here, equation 4, we have velocity as EE by M into tau. This you have to substitute in the expression for current density. Here you have current density as NeV, right? In the place of V, substitute this quantity. Velocity is nothing but EE divided by tau. From now on, I will remove this vector symbol. I will just consider the magnitude. Okay. Okay. Now, let us move forward. What will happen if I write velocity as EE by M into tau? I get NE square. Okay. 2 times E is there. NE square tau divided by M. Now, this is equation 9. Now, what you are going to do next? Once you have J and E, always remember you have to compare this equation with Ohm's law. I have said Ohm's law can be restated as J is equal to sigma into E, right? Now, compare these two equations, equation 9 and 10. Don't ask me where, I mean, how does I get this equation 10? It is the Ohm's law. Okay, it is the Ohm's law. V is equal to IR can be written as J is equal to sigma E. I have done this in the offline class. If you don't remember, please ask me. I will do later, but here I will not do this. J is equal to sigma into E. That is the Ohm's law. If you compare these two equations, you will find sigma as Ne square tau divided by M. Okay, Ne square tau divided by M. Sigma is the conductivity, right? Our aim is itself is to find out the conductivity. Now, according to this is not the final step. We are very near to the end of our derivation, but it is not the final step. Now we are actually incorporating quantum free electron theory. Okay, according to quantum free electron theory, there is a level called as Fermi level, right? There is a level called as Fermi level, and only those electrons which are near to the Fermi level will participate in the conduction mechanism, right? And velocity of those electrons are nothing but Vf. What is Vf? It is the Fermi velocity, right? Now I am introducing quantum mechanics into the picture. Okay. Therefore, the relaxation time can be written as something called as lambda f, very interesting, divided by Vf. Vf is Fermi velocity. This is the velocity of the electron moving in the, I mean, having the energy equal to Fermi energy. Okay. What is this lambda f? Lambda f is known as mean free path. Is this new concept for you guys? I hope you might have heard this thing. Mean free path. What is this mean free path? Mean free path is the distance between, I mean, distance traveled by the electron between two successive collisions. Okay. Electron will frequently collide with these lattice ions. Okay, and that will give us the resistance, and the time between two successive collision is known as relaxation time, and space between two successive collision is known as relaxation time. Okay, space between two successive collision is known as mean free path. I have made a mistake, sorry. Lambda f is the mean free path, which is the distance between two successive collision. Okay, in terms of that, I can write relaxation time as lambda f divided by vf. Are you getting this point? Okay, Fermi velocity is equal to mean free path by relaxation time. Therefore, relaxation time can be written as mean free path divided by Fermi velocity. This thing you have to remember. This is the crucial point here. Okay, this is actually entirely due to quantum mechanics. Okay, quantum mechanics, in quantum free electron theory itself, we define Fermi energy, right? There is no concept of Fermi energy in classical mechanics. Therefore, this is the most important step in this derivation, writing relaxation time as lambda f divided by Vf. Now substitute the expression for tau, that is a relaxation time, as lambda f divided by Vf. That's it. This is the final derivation, final step. This will give you 8 marks. Okay, this question will be there in the examination for 8 marks. Do you have any doubt? This will finish up the conductor part. This is the last derivation I am going to do in the class. Okay. Again, I repeat, we have learned, or we have derived electrical conductivity for conductors in this class. Okay. We have considered a cylindrical piece of conducting material of length L and area of cross section A, to which we have connected a battery. Due to this battery, electrons will move towards the left. Okay. The force acting on the electron is calculated E into E, and according to Newton's law, you know that ma is equal to E into E, and therefore acceleration can be written like this, and acceleration can also be written as drift velocity divided by relaxation time. Therefore, this drift velocity can be represented as E by m into tau. Okay, this you have to substitute in the expression for current density. Current density is NeV. In the place of V, substitute E by m into tau. Okay, then you will have this kind of equation. Compare this current density equation with Ohm's law. You will find sigma in terms of tau. Apply quantum mechanics or apply quantum free electron theory and introduce the concept of Fermi velocity. Okay, represent tau in terms of Fermi velocity. Tau is equal to lambda f by Vf. Substitute that here, you will get sigma expression. Sigma is equal to Ne square m by lambda f into Vf. Okay, now this will solve the problem or demerits of classical free electron theory. Okay, I will just explain it and wind up this class. Okay, please bear with me. This expression, just remember this equation, Ne square m into lambda f by Vf. Classical free electron theory, sigma is also like this only, right? You might have seen that sigma expression according to classical mechanics is this, Ne square tau divided by m. Okay, here tau is a constant quantity according to classical mechanics. Okay, E is a constant quantity, m is a constant quantity. Therefore, sigma entirely depends on n. Okay, but according to quantum free electron theory, in the place of tau, I have to write lambda f by Vf. Okay, Fermi velocity and lambda f. This quantity is not a constant now. Lambda f by Vf is a variable quantity. Vf, that is Fermi energy, varies with, or Fermi energy level varies with temperature. As temperature increases, that Fermi level also increases. Therefore, sigma is not a quantity which depends on n. Sigma now depends on both n as well as this ratio lambda f divided by Vf. I will show that in a moment. Wait. Where is that? Okay. I will share the new, this notes. Okay. See here. The conductor's part. Okay. We are at the end of this discussion on conductors. In the notes, I have just mentioned the expression for sigma. I have not derived it. Okay. I will send the derivation later. This is the expression, right? Here, instead of mass m, I have to consider the effective mass of the electron. Okay. In the place of tau, which was obtained according to classical mechanics, is replaced with lambda and Vf, mean free path and Fermi velocity. Okay. Here, the one more important question is you have to, you have to explain the success of this quantum free electron theory. The success itself is this equation, sigma, okay, which tells that sigma not only depends on n, but it also depends on lambda by Vf. And also this factor is interesting. In classical mechanics, the mass m is just the mass of electron. But here in the place of m, we have m star, which is the effective mass of electron. That also plays a vital role in deciding sigma of a metal. Okay. Now, let us take the case of aluminum and copper itself. I have said that according to classical free electron theory, aluminum is more conductive than copper, right? But according to experimental observations, this sigma of copper is greater than sigma of aluminum. Okay, that is because even though aluminum has 2.3 times higher n than copper, this ratio lambda by Vf for copper is 3.73 times higher than aluminum. Okay, n for aluminum is 2.13 times greater than copper, but this quantity lambda by Vf is 3.73 higher in copper. Copper will have higher lambda by Vf. Therefore, according to quantum theory, sigma of copper should be higher, and which is also the experimental observation, right? Experimentally, we know that copper is having higher conductivity. Now I have finally revealed the truth behind using copper wires in domestic applications. Okay, we avoid aluminum, right? Aluminum have lesser conductivity, and that entire thing is explained by the sigma only. Okay. Now, and also one more interesting fact is there. You can see this m star, the effective mass is in the denominator. If m star is higher, conductivity will be lower, right? This fact actually again plays a role in deciding the conductivity. For aluminum, this m star effective mass is higher than copper. It is slightly higher. It is not that much higher. It is slightly higher. After all, m is the mass of electron. You cannot expect very high variation in m star. Okay, almost aluminum mass of electrons in aluminum is same as that of mass of electrons in the copper, but in aluminum it is slightly higher. You can see it is 1.08 times than that of copper. This also acts a this also plays a very important role in deciding sigma. You can see aluminum has higher m star, therefore lower conductivity than copper. Okay, therefore experimental observations were actually proved by quantum theory. Okay, this is the one of the success of quantum free electron theory, and there is one more success. I have said according to classical theory, the sigma varies as 1 over root t. Do you remember that thing? Sigma is directly proportional to 1 over root t. If temperature increases, then square of the conductivity actually decreases according to classical theory. But experimental observation shows that sigma is inversely proportional to t instead of root t. Okay. Therefore, this also needs to be explained. That is done in the next segment. You just see here. Mean free path. Let us assume a lattice atom. Is this as temperature increases, this lattice atom will start to vibrate. Okay, this lattice atom will vibrate, and if r is the distance covered by this vibration, Okay, if R is the amplitude of the vibration, if R is less, there is no much damage will be done for the electron. If R is high, if the lattice atom is vibrating with higher amplitude, then scattering probability becomes more, or resistance becomes more, right? With temperature, this R increases. Okay, actually, for vibrating body such as lattice atom, the energy is directly proportional to R square. If the amplitude of vibration is more, energy of oscillation is more. That is the kind of thing. If the lattice atom is vibrating with higher amplitude, it will have higher energy. Exactly, this E is directly proportional to R square. And if this R square increases, what will happen to the collision probability? Collision increases, correct? If R square increases, collision increases. Then what will happen to mean free path? If collision is very high, free path will be less, isn't it? If there are a lot of people running around you, what is the free path left for you guys? You will have no free path. Therefore, this mean free path is inversely proportional to this amplitude R square. Okay, you just observe these two things. Mean free path is inversely proportional to R square, and energy of the oscillator is directly proportional to R square. And you also know that if I increase the temperature, energy of the oscillator also increases, right? Therefore, E is directly proportional to T. These three things will sum up together and give the meaning of this kind. Lambda is inversely proportional to T. You just see E is directly proportional to R square and E is directly proportional to T. That means what? R square is directly proportional to T. If R square is directly proportional to T, you will have T in the denominator over here. Therefore, this lambda is now inversely proportional to T, which is in agreement with experimental observation. Okay. This solves the entire, this solves the temperature dependence of conductivity problem, which was there in classical mechanics. I will sum up. According to classical mechanics, this conductivity is inversely proportional to square root of T. But experimentally, it has been observed this conductivity is inversely proportional to T. And according to quantum free electron theory, this lambda now becomes inversely proportional to T. Hence, this solves that problem also. Therefore, we have solved both the problems. We have solved that copper is good conductor than aluminum concept, and we have also solved that sigma is inversely proportional to temperature problem. Okay, thus quantum free electron theory is successful in explaining experimental observations. This will conclude the conductor part of module 4, and I hope I have done justice with this module. I have completed dielectrics as well as I have completed semiconductors, and today conductor part is also over, and there are few problems that will be discussed in the next class. Okay, if you have any doubts regarding test, please feel free to ask me. Okay, and let me tell you, there will be 4 questions. Okay, you have to write either 1 or 2 and 3 or 4. Okay, each question will carry 10 marks. Okay, and each question will have 2 subdivisions. One will be derivation part for 7 marks and other will be a problem part for 3 marks. Okay, and only, I hope you remember that module 2 is given for the test. There is no module 4. Okay, don't ask me that question again and again. Don't have doubts. It is only quantum mechanics part is there, and I have given 3 important questions from quantum mechanics, those for those students who have contacted me. Now I think in the class itself I must declare there are 3 important questions that you have to look into. First one is you have to state uncertainty principle and show that new electrons are not present inside the nucleus using the uncertainty principle. The second important question is you have to set up Schrodinger's time independent wave equation. And the third important question is you have to find out eigenvalues and eigenvectors of or eigenfunctions of a particle trapped in a one-dimensional well? These are the three important questions from my side. And there may be additional question on radiation, I mean black body radiation, where you have to remember the definitions: Vane's law, what are the laws? Rayleigh-Jeans law, Vane's law, Boltzmann-Stephens law, or Stephens-Boltzmann law, and then what is that? Planck's law. Okay, these are the four definitions you have to remember. And one more minor concept is the concept of matter wave. Okay, de Broglie wave. Okay, and for problems, you just ask HOD. I don't know how many problems he has done in the class. Okay, and every question will carry a problem. That is a big headache. Okay. Thank you very much for attending the class. If you have any doubts regarding module 4 or test, please feel free to ask me. Okay. Sometimes I am whenever I was busy, I have not been able to reply to your WhatsApp messages, but once I see, I will definitely reply back. Okay. Thank you very much. I will stop the class.